Hello, everyone. Welcome. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. I'm going to play with Simon Says Stamp's April card kit in this video. This one is called Friendly Flowers. I love working with floral images on my cards, so I had a lot of fun creating these cards today. And if you have the kit or buy different elements from the kit, I hope I can give you some fun inspiration. Okay, as always, I'm going to show you what the kit includes. I showed you some embossing powder there, and that one is called Cream. I've never even considered purchasing cream embossing powder before, but I really loved it. It's just very subtle, but it was nice. Okay, so you got some candy and some velvet ribbon. You get these buttons. I didn't use them on any of these cards, but they sure are cute. They give you a 5% off coupon and then 3 envelopes. Next up, they included 3 pages of stickers, and these are very stiff. They're not like chipboard, but they are very stiff, nice stickers, like made out of cardstock with a sheen to it. Very pretty. I love all these sentiments. And then some florals. Okay, their pattern paper was just delightful. Let me flip through this and show you. So this is a 6x8 paper pad. I loved all of the patterns. You get 12 sheets, and this is from Simple Stories, Simple Vintage Cottage Fields. And it included some really pretty cut-aparts. I ended up using one of these for my cards today. I just love the bright pinks and the teals. Here's the second sheet of cut-aparts. Okay. They also included 3 card bases in cream. They were pre-scored, which is nice. I love it when they do that. I always use a bone folder just to flatten down the crease so it doesn't pop up. Very nice cardstock. And this is called a quote band from Tim Holtz's Ideology. This one says, "No beauty shines brighter than that of a good heart." And I think they're all different. And of course, the gorgeous stamp set. I love floral stamp sets, especially this humongous one from this stamp set. There's a lot of sentiment stamps in this that would be perfect for stamping inside your cards too. Here is the example page, and this also tells you what's inside your kit. And then the card stock this month, you get a really pretty dark teal, gray, light pink, and a cream. So let's get into the first card. I'm going to use this beautiful piece of pattern paper. I just loved the flowers at the side of this. So I'm going to cut this out and create a slimline card. I'm going to leave a border around the flowers with this pretty gray. The slimlines I like to make are 8.5 by 3.5, and I already have my white card base ready to go. I already cut out a piece of the teal cardstock. It's going to be a little bit smaller than my card base, so I'll have a nice white margin on this card. To give the teal cardstock a little bit more interest, I'm going to pull out my scoreboard and score it at every 1/2 inch. This just provides a little bit of texture and interest. Let me speed this up here. But I score it twice just because it is such thick cardstock. These stripes look pretty with the florals. And it's, like I said, it's very subtle. Okay, so let's start putting our card together. I'll use some dot liner to put down the teal cardstock. My card base is made out of 110-pound Neenah Solar White. And then the flowers I'm just going to put down flat as well with more dot liner. This would look pretty popped up as well, and I considered that, but I thought I'll just do something simple and easy this time to get us started. Okay, the sentiment comes from the stickers. There were so many cute sentiments, I had a hard time figuring out which one I wanted. This one is going to say, "Life is good," and I'm popping it up with some foam strips. I love these Doris foam strips. I use them a lot. And I just put two together to make them a little bit thicker so it fit the sentiment. Let me take off the release paper, and then I'm just going to put this over the pinkish white flower at the top. I had a hard time deciding where to put this. For a last touch, I'm adding some beads around this panel. Let's see, these are called Bubble Bath from Trinity Stamps. They're flat back bead mix. I love Trinity Stamps bling. It's what I use most often these days. And here's a close-up look at the finished card. Very simple, but I think it's just beautiful. Okay, on to card number 2. I'm going to play with this gorgeous stamp now. And I'm going to stamp it onto a piece of pattern paper. I love doing this technique. I'm going to stamp it out with some Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. And I do stamp it up several times just to get a nice dark impression. And then I'm going to pull out my colored pencils and color in these images. I like to leave the stamp on the door of the Misty so that I can come in and restamp it after I'm done with my coloring. But this time I forgot. I do that probably 50% of the time. I'm just too anxious to get on with the card, and I started cutting it out, so that's all right. It didn't look too bad, but I do like to crisp up the lines sometimes. So this pencil sharpener is my latest favorite tool in my craft room. It's called a brass bullet. It has a nice heft to it. It's not like those flimsy plastic ones. And it just takes off a little bit off of your colored pencils. It's really nice. Okay, I'm going to color a pink flower. So I'm starting with my lightest pink first. And I'm going to allow a lot of the pattern paper to show through. And then I'm going to come in with a red colored pencil. This is just going to start building up the depth of this color, of this flower, I should say. And then I come in with a burgundy. I added some yellow to the stamen. Most of this I am going to color off camera. I'm going to color in the two large flowers and show you how I did those. The next one's going to be teal, so I'm starting with my lightest first, and then my middle color. And then I'm going to come in with a really dark blue for the darkest shadows. And then I used a lot of different colors of greens for the greenery, and the little berries I colored in purple, with 2 colors of purple. Okay, so I'll take this off camera and finish my coloring, and here it is, all done. Now I forgot to put it in my Misty again, but that's all right. I'm just going to cut it down to 5.5 by 4.25. I really need to invest in some infinity dies. I don't have a rectangle die where I can just cut this out. So I had to cut it out with my Fiskars paper trimmer. I have a lot of rectangle dies, but they all do something, like they have scallops on it or hem stitching. I don't have just a plain one. I got to think about getting one of those. It would have made this card go a lot faster. Okay, so here it is all cut out, and I'm going to use more pattern paper. I love this black stripes. Stripes and florals go perfectly together. I'll cut a little strip of this off. And then I do end up cutting down this 5.5 by 4.25 panel down just a little bit more. Now let's put down the diagonal stripes first on the edge of the card base. And then next we'll put our floral piece with more dot liner. This is just another simple but fun card. I had so much fun coloring in these flowers. I'm going to use another strip sentiment on this card. Sentiments were all so pretty, but this one is going to say "Love You More," and I popped it up with more foam strips. And I'm using the same bubble bath beads on this card. I was thinking of putting that over the edge, but I liked it more tucked in the flowers. And I'm just putting down 3 beads. The pretty silver heart tray is something I designed, and I sell it in my Etsy store if you're interested, as well as the Jackie's Craft Table glue. And here is a close-up look at the finished card. On my next card, I'm going to play with this beautiful stamp again. I couldn't get enough of it, but this one's going to be super simple. I'm not going to color this in. I'm just going to stamp it out with clear embossing powder on this piece of teal cardstock. And then I'll pull it out and pour some of the cream-colored embossing powder on it. So I use that piece of scratch paper just to catch the embossing powder, and then I can just funnel it back in the bottle. But the cream is really pretty. I'll heat up my heat tool and melt this, and it just turns really bright cream color once it's melted. I tried to move my heat tool around pretty fast so that I don't warp my paper. This was nice thick cardstock. It didn't warp very badly. And then once that has melted, I'm going to rub off the anti-static powder with a tissue. And then this panel is ready to go. We're going to set this aside for just a minute and stamp out the single flowers that came in this set onto a piece of the pink cardstock. Let's put down some anti-static powder first. I'm using Versamark ink to stamp these out. I do like to stamp them out at least twice to get a nice sticky line. Then more of the cream-colored embossing powder. These were really fast to melt. My heat tool was already warmed up, and you can see it melting better on this panel for some reason. But look how pretty and bright it gets. It's the second flower. So much fun. Okay, I started coloring these in with my colored pencils, but I thought, oh, I'm just going to try something faster. So I pulled out my picked raspberry, and I'm just using a finger dauber to color in these flowers. It's going to be darkest at the centers of these flowers. And I'm just going right over the colored pencil work that I started there. And it looks pretty with the colored pencils. I do go back and add a little bit more of the colored pencil work on these, just a little bit. Now let's put this card together. I'll use some dot liner on the first panel. We're using another cream-colored card base. And we'll center this on the card base. The flowers I fussy cut, and I did not leave a border around these. I cut right up to the line, and I'll pull off the release paper. I am going to pop these up with some foam pieces. This is a pretty easy, fast and easy card to do. And then we'll put the flowers over the flowers on this card panel. Look how pretty that looks. These two colors are just gorgeous together. So let's put the second flower on. I'm just trying to line it up perfectly. I'm using some gems from Pretty Pink Posh on this card. But first, let's put the sentiment down. I'm just going to hold that in place and trim it down. And then I'm going to pop this up with some foam pieces as well. You pull off the release paper and just put that in place at the top. And then I'm just going to sprinkle these little gems around the flowers. These gemstones are really delicate and pretty, and they just help expand the pink of the flowers a little bit. And that's all I'm going to do to this card. Just using my jewel picker to pick these up and glue them in place. And then here is a close-up look at this card. Trying to hold it so you can see the little gemstones sparkle. They just look so delicate and pretty. On card number 4, I'm going to create a mini slimline card, and this one is super simple and super fast, and it's my favorite of the set. I just love how this one turned out. But I love these little butterflies on this piece of patterned paper. They're very painterly looking. I'm using another piece of patterned paper, actually the flip side, to put down on my card base. This is a mini slimline. It's 3 by 6. I'm going to put a little bit of burlap twine around this butterfly panel. I'll wrap it around it a few times. I'll tie a knot, and then I can tie it in a bow. I've had this burlap twine for ages, and I think it's going to last me the rest of my life. There's so much on this spool. I'm going to scooch this up so it's in the middle of the card. And then I'm going to put some Arteza foam tape on either side of my ribbon or my twine. I want this to be flat, so I'm not going to go over the twine with the foam adhesive. Otherwise, there would be a little bit of a bubble in this pattern paper. Then I can just take off the release paper and then center this down the middle of the card. So you'll see the pattern paper at either side. I'm going to tape this down. The slimline and the mini slimline cardstock bases just pop up, and I always find I have to tape them down to keep it flat so that I can work with it. So we'll center this. I do end up trimming a little bit off the top and the bottom. The sentiment says, "Scatter joy." I love little cards like this that don't really have an occasion, but you can just send it out anytime. I'm going to put a glue dot behind the knot on the bow to keep it from sliding around. I'll just pick it up with my all-in-one tool. This is so handy. And then just press it behind the knot. This time I'm using some Trinity Stamps boiled sugar mix jelly drops. These look really pretty with flowers or butterflies or whatever. It's a bit kind of subtle, but it's pretty. And here's a close-up look. Card number 5, I'm going to use one of the cut-aparts. And this one turns out to be one of my favorites as well. I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says, "Sweet friend." They're 2 separate sentiments, but I'm just going to stamp them in the corner of this cut-apart. We're going to use some more of the cream embossing powder on this. I couldn't get enough of the cream embossing powder. It was so pretty. So we'll pour this over the side, tap off the excess. And I can just quickly melt that on the corner here. And it adds a lot more interest to the cut-apart. I mean, the cut-apart is pretty as is, but I just like to add my own touches to it. I started stamping a sentiment in the middle of this piece of pattern paper, but I thought the polka dots just kind of obscured it. I'm still going to use the pattern paper, but I'm just going to cover it up with this cut-apart. And the cut-apart I've popped up with some more Arteza foam tape. We'll center this on this panel. I'm kind of slow at this. I want to make sure I get it in place, because once it's down, this Arteza foam tape will not budge. The sentiment says, "Love you more," and I'm just going to put it over the sentiment on the cut-apart. I popped it up again with more Darice foam strips. And then from my stash, I'm just pulling out some pinkish little dots to put on this panel. I think I got these from Pink and Maine. They have really pretty enamel dots there. I'll use the smallest one at the top corner. And then I just keep on adding things. I'm going to add some white gel pen to the flowers. This is from Arteza. I'll have all of the links to the products I used listed in the description box below. Next, I'm going to add a bow. I already tied it with a piece of very thin white ribbon. I'll put the glue dot where I want it on the card, and then I can just press the bow into it and trim off the ends. The very last thing I'm going to do to this card is add some white stickles to the centers of these flowers. I love how this little touch of glitter looks when it's dry. Here's a close-up look at card number 5. I had so much fun creating with this beautiful card kit. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope you all get a chance to sit down and be crafty today. I'll be back again with another video really soon. Take care. Bye.